Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is a third day of a 5-day course that I'm teaching, and I know some of you guys might just be here for the morning, and that's fine. You guys are welcome to come and go as you please because we have regular classes here on Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And when we're teaching a course, when we have those regular classes, everybody just kind of comes in and joins in. Everything we do here is available at no cost. You guys are welcome to stay as long or as short as you'd like. We're going to be starting with meditation to help you guys do a little bit of meditation, which is learning the teachings of the Buddha in order to be able to train your mind towards this enlightened mental state. And then after we do meditation, I'm going to be sharing this talk on transforming the three poisons: craving, anger, and ignorance. This is where you learn from a high level of what is really going on in the unenlightened mind. The unenlightened mind experiences things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't actually experience those feelings anymore. It's these pollutions of the mind that are actually causing the mind to experience this. You can get to the point where your mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You would need the wisdom of how to train your mind to be able to move it to this enlightened mental state. And that's what a Buddha is. A Buddha actually figures out for themselves how to be able to get to this enlightened mental state, and then they share it with other people. So I'm going to be sharing this teaching to help you understand these pollutions that are in the mind and the symptoms that you experience because of them, because then you'll be able to independently verify that your mind has these. And then I'm going to be sharing with you the solutions of how to fix this so that you can uproot this out of the mind and move the mind closer and closer to the enlightened mental state. We're going to take a mid-morning break, and then when we come back from the break, I'm going to be sharing something called the 5 precepts. The 5 precepts are 5 impactful decisions that you could make either wisely or unwisely that'll lead to either wholesome or unwholesome results for you. If you've ever heard that the Buddha taught no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, no intoxicants, this isn't actually what the Buddha taught. This sounds like rules and commandments. It sounds like black and white. I'm going to be sharing with you the original words of the Buddha on the 5 precepts so that you can understand these important teachings and then how to apply it to your day-to-day life. We're going to be taking a lunch break, and then at 2 p.m. we're going to be coming back from lunch, and I'm going to be teaching walking meditation. This is a meditation that's really helpful if you have an overactive mind, if you find that you have a lot of energy and the last thing you're thinking about is sitting down to be still for meditation. Walking meditation is really helpful for that. It's also helpful if you're noticing you're falling asleep during meditation, like seated or lying position. Walking meditation can help you in that situation too. So there's plenty of opportunities for you guys to learn today if you'd like. Again, you can stay as long or as short as you like. I'm going to be starting with the breathing mindfulness meditation. I'm going to be doing some chanting to ease us into the meditation. If you'd like to join in the chanting, there's laminated sheets over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself and get a laminated sheet, and you can chant along if you like, because it helps to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to help commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. This is how they remembered the teachings. So the origins of chanting, you can see that this isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. All those things are based in belief, and the Buddha's teachings don't have any belief. It's learning, examining, investigating his teachings. You reflect on them to independently verify them, and then you practice his teachings to train your mind and uproot these pollutions so that then you can experience more and more of the qualities of enlightenment. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to, but just understand that it's not a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or any of those kinds of things, because the teachings of the Buddha aren't about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, it's about learning, growing, and developing now in this life so that you can experience peace and joy in this life. So if you end up getting one of those laminated sheets and you read the English translations there, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself, because a Buddha wouldn't go around and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me. This would be ego and arrogance if somebody did this. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peace and joy joy that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you might have a lot of appreciation and respect for that person too. The Buddha actually shared his teachings out of the kindness of his heart. He wasn't required to do it, but he chose to do it. So he was helping his students to be able to get to this permanent mental state. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. It's kind of like having a tool belt and using different tools in different situations. So I'm going to share some guidance with you on the seated position, because this is a common position that people will tend to meditate in when they're first getting started. And what I'll share with you are just some recommendations, just some suggestions for you. It's nothing that is required of you. You can really sit however you're comfortable. Everybody's body is a bit different, and you'll find different things to be comfortable. So what I'm going to share with you are just recommendations or suggestions that you might consider, but you find whatever's comfortable for you. Somebody might be sitting on the floor, in a chair, or in a bench or sofa or wheelchair. You could really sit however you're comfortable. But if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. That'll allow your circulation to flow and you won't experience pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, again, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. So if you like this, you could do this, and it'll maybe feel comfortable for you, but there's other options here as well. Again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. And then for anybody who's in a chair, or maybe if you're at home on a bench or a sofa or wheelchair, you can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed. So this is an option for you as well. And then in terms of your upper body, you would like this to be erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This will help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you are real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle, where the mind can be attentive and alert, and it'll also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. This is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. As I mentioned, we're going to do some chanting on the way in. Then I'm going to provide you some guidance during the meditation where I'm essentially instructing you and teaching you how to meditate while we're actually meditating. But then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're all meditating together. Everyone here at the temple and everybody online. Now, during this period of time where there's quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. There could be a car going by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone here might cough or sneeze. There can be any number of sounds. If you're in meditation, having a craving for permanent silence, where your mind wants permanent silence, if you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be frustrated or annoyed. This is what's actually causing the mind to be angry and frustrated and all those other discontent feelings. It's your own mind that's doing this. It's not the outside world. Oftentimes people believe in the unenlightened state with a lack of wisdom that it's other people that are causing you to be frustrated or annoyed. But it's actually your own mind that's doing this. The mind having craving for permanence. You live in an impermanent world. It's not possible for it to be permanently quiet while you're meditating. So as long as you understand impermanence, when you hear that sound, understand the sound's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. You can reside peaceful and joyful, understanding that the world is working exactly like it was intended to work, where there's impermanence. So then after that period of time of quietness, we'll come out of that with some more chanting. And that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand this topic of the 3 poisons. So again, I'm going to do some chanting to ease us into the meditation. You guys are welcome to join in if you like, and then I'll come back with guidance after that. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Bhutang วันหังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเควตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเควโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะเควาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาโอตังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. I'm going to share with you this talk on transforming the three poisons of craving, anger, and ignorance, because this is where you're going to understand what's going on in the mind and why you keep experiencing discontent feelings over and over and over again. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't be experiencing any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated, and it comes from uprooting these pollutions out of the mind. But you need to first understand what they are, and then the solutions of how to fix it and how to uproot it out of the mind. Oftentimes people think that the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated, and instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. It takes gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress to gradually progress on this journey. It took the Buddha 6 years to be able to get to this enlightened mental state. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. This is a permanent mental state. All those discontent feelings that I mentioned, an enlightened being doesn't experience those any longer. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are being caused by something external. You might think your parents are frustrating you, or your brothers or sisters are annoying you, or maybe your boss is irritating you. This isn't actually true. It's actually coming from your own mind, and it's these three poisons that'll help you to be able to understand why this is occurring, so that then you can transform it. Because when you uproot these out of the mind, you're going to notice that you have focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Because the mind will be performing optimally. As long as these pollutions are in the mind, you'll lack focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll notice by the time you get to enlightenment that your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming. You'll notice that they'll be at ease. Because right now you probably have a certain amount of bitterness and harshness, hostility in your mind. And you might think that's actually coming from other people, but it's actually coming from your own mind. mind. And this is why you can transform it. You can actually eliminate it out of the mind. You'll get to the point where by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't even experience a bad mood any longer. It's physically impossible for you to experience a bad mood. So as I go, I'm going to be sharing teachings with you to help you understand this. But it's important that you don't believe anything that it is that I share, because belief isn't going to help you get to wisdom. You need to be able to get to wisdom where you can see the truth for yourself. And that's what learning, examining, and investigating the teachings will do for you, where you can then reflect on it and independently verify what it is that you're learning, but then you can practice the teachings. And when you're practicing the teachings, you're integrating them into your day-to-day life and uprooting these pollutions out of the mind. So as I share these three poisons, I'm going to be also sharing not only what they are, but I'm going to be sharing the symptoms that you experience because of them. And because I don't know you, I haven't been in your life for more than maybe just a few minutes that you've been here, you'll see that by me describing to you what these poisons are and the symptoms that you'll experience, you can see that I'm describing what you experience on a day-to-day basis. This is how you can verify what I'm sharing with you is the truth, is that you'll see that I'll be able to describe for you the things that you experience on a day-to-day basis. So the Buddha teaches you that when you're learning his teachings, that you actively learn his teachings with eager ears, right? And that you don't believe his teachings, but instead you independently verify them. And as I'm teaching, I'm going to be pausing a few times, opening up for questions so that you guys can get some clarity on what it is that I'm sharing with you. And as you would like to ask questions here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowl. You can help yourself to a microphone, take it back to your seat, and then just press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on. And if you hold this up to your chin, we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share it with them. And then if you're not using the mic, if you could turn it off, that way we won't get feedback through the speakers. And then for anyone who's online, if you guys would like to ask questions, you can put this into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like that way. So first, let me just help you to understand what these three poisons are. They're referred to as the three poisons, or the three unwholesome roots, or the three fires. Some people even refer to them as defilements, or taints, or pollutions. This is a high-level description of what's going on in the unenlightened mind and why it keeps experiencing certain difficulties and struggles in day-to-day life. When your mind's having these difficulties and struggles, it's because of these pollutions that are in the mind. You can actually transform that. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll see that your life is completely at ease. It helps you to explain the unwholesome results that you experience on a day-to-day basis. There's certain unwholesome things that you experience on a day-to-day basis, and what the unenlightened mind will tend to do is blame these things on other people. When you're experiencing unwholesome results in your life, you might think that it's because of other people, but it's actually from decisions that you're making. We refer to any results that you're experiencing as karma. You might have heard the word karma being used before. The word karma is from the Pali language, where the word karma is from the Sanskrit language, and the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language. So those who study the original teachings of the Buddha will tend to use this word karma. If this translated to just one English word, I would use that because it'd be easier for everyone. But what this word karma means is it's cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. It's nothing mystical or magical. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. It's literally that whenever you make a certain decision, there's going to be a result. And when you make decisions wisely, you will experience wholesome karma, or wholesome results. And when you make decisions unwisely, you're going to experience unwholesome karma, or unwholesome results. And when you have these pollutions in the mind, it's going to lead to unwholesome karma, because you're making decisions through this craving, anger, and ignorance. So what the Buddha is teaching you to do is how to eliminate this craving, anger, and ignorance, and increase what's called the three wholesome roots. By you improving the mind, by transforming it and bringing in these three wholesome roots, now you'll experience wholesome karma because you're making decisions through these wholesome roots. So The natural law of karma is helping you to see this cause and effect, or action and result, this sequence of events that is occurring. Everything that you experience in life, either wholesome or unwholesome, is coming from certain decisions that you're making. And as you awaken, meaning you cultivate wisdom about this natural law, you'll be able to make wiser and wiser decisions that are leading to more and more wholesome results. Because by the time you get to enlightenment, you'll only be experiencing wholesome karma. There's no unwholesome karma that you're experiencing, because you're no longer making unwise decisions. But again, as long as these pollutions are in mind, you're not going to be able to do that. You'll experience unwholesome results coming back into your life. And again, what people tend to do is they blame it on other people. Or you might say that it's good luck or bad luck, or it's destiny or fate, or that it's God or some entity called the universe that is causing you to experience any particular thing in your life. And if you subscribe to this type of thinking, then that means that you're locked in. You can't change anything about your life, because you can't change good luck or bad luck, and you can't change destiny or fate. You can't change a being called God or some entity called the universe, and you can't change other people. But that's what the unenlightened mind tends to do, is go around the world trying to change other people. And as long as you're doing that, you'll never actually be able to experience the improvement that the Buddha is teaching you and guiding you to be able to experience. Because there's really no such thing as good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate. This being God is not controlling you. There's no such thing as this entity called the universe that is controlling what you experience, and it's not other people that are controlling what you experience. If there's anything that you don't particularly care for that's going on in your day-to-day life, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But if you never cultivate wisdom, you'll keep making the same decisions over and over and over again, and you'll keep experiencing the same results. And as long as these pollutions are in the mind, that's what you'll tend to do, is keep making the same decisions over and over and over again, not realizing that it's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result. So by understanding these as a problem in the mind and then applying the antidote, you can actually get to a point where you're no longer experiencing the unwholesome results or unwholesome karma. Now, the three poisons help you to understand the unenlightened mind from a high level, but there's a deeper level of detail. It's called the 10 fetters. And the three poisons, or these three unwholesome roots, or three fires, help you to be able to understand the pollutions at a higher level. But the deepest level of detail is called the 10 fetters. This is something that you learn as part of your journey to enlightenment. But when you're first getting started, you kind of learn these higher level understandings as you kind of peel away the layers of the teachings of the Buddha, and you go deeper and deeper. These 10 fetters are 10 individual pollutions that the Buddha discovered, and they're referred to as fetters because during the lifetime of the Buddha, if you were someone that they were trying to keep confined to a certain area, like a criminal, they would attach a fetter to your ankle. This was a shackle and a chain and a ball, and they would just kind of keep you in this open field, and then you would just kind of hang out there. Where today we put prisoners in jail cells or prison cells, where back in the time of the Buddha, they would attach a fetter to your ankle. So when he discovered these 10 pollutions in the mind, he referred to them as fetters, or the 10 fetters. So what the Buddha is teaching you and guiding you to be able to do is uproot these fetters out of the mind, because as you eliminate these pollutions, that's where the qualities of the enlightened mind shine through more and more. You might think about it like the sun, and there's clouds in front of the sun. And when you peel away the clouds, the rays of the sun can shine through more and more. So while we talk about it as attaining enlightenment, one of the ways you might think about it is your mind is already enlightened, but there's these pollutions that are in the way that are hindering you from experiencing that. And as you eliminate these pollutions and peel them away, the qualities of enlightenment start to shine through more and more and more. So it's these 10 fetters that you're ultimately working to eliminate, but it's helpful to be able to understand these pollutions as the 3 poisons, or the 3 unwholesome roots, or the 3 fires, because there's certain symptoms that we can talk about there, and there's certain solutions or antidotes that we can talk about. The 3 wholesome roots is what you're looking to cultivate in the mind. So I'm going to be able to explain to you the unwholesome roots and the wholesome roots as part of our talk today. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe these from a high level. Then we're going to drill into each one individually and talk about them in more detail, and really focusing on the solutions here as well. There's a core central teaching of the Buddha called the Eightfold Path, which is really guiding you to be able to eliminate all the 10 fetters in the mind. And that's what I taught yesterday as part of this course. It's 8 individual factors that you learned through the words of the Buddha, and you implement this into your life in order to be able to train your mind closely. But here, we're going to help you to be able to see the problems in the mind and then talk about certain solutions from that Eightfold Path. But you would really need to know the Eightfold Path in the entirety. You wouldn't just be able to learn what I'm sharing with you today and actually get to enlightenment. You're going to need to learn much more than just what I'm sharing with you today. But this will kind of help you to see where the Buddhist teachings are headed towards. And here, again, I'm going to share this with you at a high level, which each one of these are, and then we'll drill into each one individually. So there's craving, anger, and ignorance. This is the way that some people refer to them, or greed, hatred, and delusion. And you'll hear other ways that people refer to them as well, because not every teacher teaches in the same way. What this craving, desire, attachment is, these wants and expectations, this is the mind longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of its affection, thinking that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. It's like the mind has an unquenchable thirst, where the mind longs and yearns and chases and chases and chases. And if the mind gets what it wants, it experiences pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants or what it expects, it'll experience painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. This is the unenlightened mind causing this feelings itself because of its craving, because of its longing, because of its yearning. The mind craves permanence, wanting things to be permanent. And if it gets what it wants, it gets those pleasant feelings. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets those painful feelings. And one of the painful things that can occur is anger can rise up in the mind. And when the mind is experiencing this anger in the unenlightened state, it falsely believes that it's coming from something external. So what the mind will tend to do is function unskillfully. It'll tend to push people away, or you'll push the situation away. This is called aversion. You might have pushed people away in your life, like friends or family members, thinking that they were the ones who were causing you to be angry, or they were the ones who were causing you to feel any particular feeling. So what the mind does is it thinks if I push this person, or if I push this situation out of the way, it'll solve the problem. But you can see that that didn't solve the problem, because you still get angry, you still get frustrated, you still get irritated or annoyed. If that person was the cause of your anger, when you push them out of your life, you would be peaceful from that point forward. Or the second thing you'll do when you falsely think that your anger and frustration is coming from something external is you'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear it into doing things your way. It's kind of like, "Grrr." The mind's trying to get its cravings fulfilled. And now in this situation, you damage your relationships, and people might choose to leave out of your life because of that anger. You might have seen that happen in your day-to-day life, where you've been angry and bitter and harsh to people, and they've chosen to leave out of your life. Or the third thing that you'll do when you don't understand that the problem is actually coming from your own mind is you'll tend to put expectations on people and try to control people and force them to do things your way. You might have been in arguments where you were adamantly trying to convince someone to stop doing what they're doing, because as long as they keep doing that, you're going to get angry. In fact, you might even have people doing this to you. You might have people pushing you aside, being bitter and harsh and hostile to you, or putting expectations on you and trying to pressure you or control you to do things their way. So as long as the mind's doing this, it can't function harmoniously with all beings. So these cravings, this desire, this longing, yearning, wanting things to be permanent while you live in an impermanent world is going to produce happy feelings when you get what you want, but you can't get what you want all the time. So you're going to get those pleasant feelings temporarily, but then the painful feelings are going to come into the mind as well. And then when that pain is arising, you're going to falsely attribute it to something external, and then you're going to push away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or put your expectations on people. And where this is all coming from is this third one, which oftentimes people refer to as ignorance. I just use this because other people use it, but I tend to think about this as the unknowing of true reality, because we're translating the words of the Buddha into English, and the Buddha wouldn't refer to someone as ignorant or stupid or foolish, because an enlightened being doesn't talk about people in degrading and diminishing ways, but the unenlightened mind will do that. It will degrade and diminish people. So a better way to think of this third poison is the unknowing of true reality, or misunderstanding or confusion, this misperception about the world, this unknowing of true reality. The mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It will firmly believe that other people are causing you to be frustrated, agitated, or annoyed. But with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. You haven't really peered into it to be able to see the truth for yourself. So this ignorance or unknowing of true reality, this lack of wisdom, is causing the mind to continue to crave and continue to have anger. The mind is stuck because it hasn't done anything to transform this ignorance. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues. If it wasn't for this lack of wisdom, this unknowing of true reality, this confusion and misunderstanding that the unenlightened mind has, it wouldn't continue to crave and it wouldn't continue to have anger. This is why the teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief. It's based in you cultivating wisdom. Because in order to antidote this ignorance, you need to cultivate wisdom. And now when you see the truth for yourself and you're not believing the teachings, you'll be able to learn the teachings that it takes to eliminate your craving and eliminate your anger. And more, you'll see your mind moving to this peaceful and joyful mental state. Because you know in situations where you're angry and you're frustrated and you're irritated and annoyed and all those other feelings. But when you experience those same situations, having trained your mind, and your mind is no longer experiencing those discontent feelings, you'll know it's these teachings that are leading to that improvement. But you need to cultivate this wisdom of how to eliminate the craving and anger. And that's what's going to help you to be able to see more and more of the truth, that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. But you can independently verify it yourself. I'll help you to be able to do that here today when we get to this next one. So this is the high level understanding of these three poisons. But now we're going to go into each one of them in detail, and I'm going to help you understand them more fully. And we're going to talk about the solutions as well. This craving, this desire, this attachment, wants, and expectations, this is the mind longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of its affection. It's like an unquenchable thirst. It's like the mind thinks the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So the mind will chase it and chase it and chase it and chase it. The mind's like, I don't feel good here. What do I need to fix this? More money. That'll fix everything. Let me chase some money. Let me try to get some more money. And now that's going to make my life so much better. But then you get your money and you're happy temporarily, but then that fades away. And then you're like, what do I need to be happy? Oh, a new boyfriend, a new girlfriend. That'll do it. Let me chase one of those for a while. Let me get one of those. And now the mind chases after that for a while, right? And now you get one of those and you're happy initially, but then you end up back in the anger or the frustration. And you're like, what do I need? A new car, a new house. Oh, I know what it is. Let me go to Thailand. That'll fix everything. Let me take a trip to Thailand, right? And now the mind just chases and chases and chases. And you get excited and happy at the beginning, but then it all fades away. It's temporary, right? This is what's called conditioned feelings, that based on some condition, the mind is now going to experience a feeling. So for example, if it's sunny outside, you might get really happy and excited about that. But because the sun is not permanent, that means your happiness is not permanent either. So when it rains, now you're sad or frustrated. Or if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, that's a conditional feeling. It's conditional pleasant feeling. And then when your bank account balance goes here, because your bank account balance can't stay here permanently, when your bank account goes here, you're frustrated or agitated or annoyed. The only thing that's happened here is change. That's it. It just went from sun to rain. That's it. Or it went from this bank account balance to this bank account balance. All that's happened is change. But the unenlightened mind craves permanence. It wants things to be permanent. But yet you live in an impermanent world. Everything around you is constantly changing. So if you could think back to maybe like a boyfriend or girlfriend that you guys got together, at the beginning of the relationship, you were so excited and you were so happy. You were getting all these pleasant feelings. This new person is in your life showing you affection. Maybe you're going out to dinner and movies. Maybe you're going to the park, having great conversations. Maybe you're even having sexual contact, and you feel so excited and so happy that you have this person in your life. But then over time, the relationship deteriorates and it falls apart. And now you might be angry or sad, or you might be lonely or bored or missing this person. It's not your love that caused that. It's not your care that caused that. Love is just a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. What's causing the sadness and the anger and the missing and the loneliness and boredom is the mind's craving permanence. It wants this person to be in your life permanently, but yet you live in an impermanent world. Ever since the beginning of the relationship, this relationship was going to end someday. Your mind just didn't understand that because it doesn't understand the universal truth of impermanence, because it's got that lack of wisdom that's in there, that everything around you is constantly changing. Even if you guys were together for the rest of your life, more likely than not, one of you would have died first, right? The relationship was always impermanent, but the mind didn't understand that. It was craving for it to be permanent. You can see this if you've had someone close to you that has died, maybe like grandma or grandpa, mom or dad or brothers or sisters. As long as they were alive, the mind was getting what it wanted. It was getting its cravings fulfilled. So there was a certain amount of comfort and happiness. But then when they died, the mind didn't like that. It didn't like that change. It didn't like that impermanence because the mind was holding on and craving permanence. But because grandma and grandpa were born, they had to die, right? Every single one of us have to die. None of us are leaving alive. We're all going to die at some point. But the mind craves permanence, wanting things to be permanent, but yet we live in an impermanent world. You can see this if you've ever been to like a wedding or something like this, where there can be people that are crying and grieving at a wedding. This is because brother or sister or your child is going off into the world with someone else. It's like, hold on a second, that's my son, that's my daughter, that's my brother, that's my sister. The mind's holding on and craving permanence. Because if it was love, you'd be pleased. Yeah, they found a new person. They found a relationship. That's wonderful. They're going off into the world with someone else. That's great, right? No, it's not that that's causing the sadness. It's not the love. It's the craving for permanence. You can also see it if you send a kid to school, or you remember when you were sent to school and your parents were maybe crying and grieving, or you were crying and grieving. Again, if it's love, a parent would be happy that their child's going to school. Hey, they're getting an education. This is great, right? It's not the love that's causing the grief when the kids are going off to school. It's the mind craving permanence, holding on to this being permanently, trying to get this person to be permanent, not understanding that they're impermanent, that they're going to be coming and going in and out of your life. The mind's craving permanence. Here's another example that doesn't involve relationships, so you might be able to see it a bit clearer. Think about if you got a brand new car and this was the best car, the most amazing car you've ever thought of, and you've been saving up for this car for a really long time. And you're so proud when you're driving off the parking lot of the dealership and you park the car at a store and you go inside, and then when you come out, there's a scratch on your car. You might be frustrated. You might be irritated or annoyed. It's not the scratch that's causing that. And it's not the person who scratched your car. It's the mind craving permanence, wanting this car to be permanently beautiful. When in reality, this car is not permanent. The paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. But if your mind craves permanence, when you're confronted with this impermanence, your mind doesn't like it. So one of the ways to say this is that the mind craves permanence. Another way to say this is that the mind does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. When things are changing in your life, your mind doesn't like that because it's holding on and craving permanence. You can look at your life and see in times where the changes were happening the most, whether you're changing jobs or you were changing living locations or you were changing relationships. This was the most challenging times for you in your life because your mind doesn't like change. The mind's holding on and craving permanence. So you can see this for yourself if you look at it closely. And that's what you need to do, is you can't believe what it is that I'm sharing with you. Take a recent time when you were angry or frustrated or sad or some other discontent feeling. It could have been this morning or yesterday or last week. Look at that situation with these fresh eyes. Because at the time, you might have been trying to blame somebody else for what you were experiencing. That's okay. That's what we do when we have a lack of wisdom. But look at it with these fresh eyes. What was it that you were longing for? What was it that you wanted? What was it you were expecting? That if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, you were angry or sad or frustrated. You should be able to see this for yourself. And if you can't, let me know, because I'll help you. I've had plenty of people over the years need help with this, because what I'm sharing with you is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And if you can see this and you can have this breakthrough, you'll be able to once and for all be able to see what's causing these feelings so that then you can fix it. Because if you keep blaming other people for what you experience, you'll never actually fix your anger. You'll never fix your stress and anxiety and your sadness and your guilt and shame and fear. It'll just be in the mind continuously for the rest of this life, right? So if you can see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, you can have a real breakthrough. One time I had a student that contacted me, and they had gone to work in their house, they said, looked beautiful. And when they came home, they got frustrated and they were angry and annoyed because their wife had a craft project all over the house. And they said, how did my mind cause these discontent feelings? I said, well, you went to work with an expectation that your house was going to look exactly the same when you came home. That's the craving for permanence. The only thing that's happened here is change. That's it. They were sure that their wife had caused them to be frustrated, but they were able to then see that it was their own mind. That only thing that happened was change, right? Their house looked a certain way when they went to work, and when they came home, it looked different. And their mind was craving permanence. They wanted the house to look exactly the same when they came home, and it didn't look that way. And that's why they were frustrated or agitated or annoyed. So if you look at this yourself, you can see that the unenlightened mind is holding on, it's craving permanence. So the solutions that the Buddha shares with you here is breathing, mindfulness, meditation, and generosity, because these are two practices that are training your mind to let go. We just did the breathing mindfulness meditation this morning. When we were focused on the breath and the mind moved off the breath, you were guided to let go and now bring the mind back to the breath. Right? That's what the mind doesn't know how to do in the unenlightened state. So the Buddha taught this meditation to be able to train your mind to let go, let go, let go. So if 10, 15, 20, 30 times during the meditation you had to let go, that's really helpful for your mind. That's like exercising the mind. It's like taking the mind to the gym and exercising it, building up this mechanism within your mind that you can let go. But if you don't train your mind this way, you're not going to be able to do that. The goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes people think that's the case. The goal is to notice them sooner and sooner and let them go easier and easier. Even an enlightened being experiences thoughts during their meditation, but there's a difference. In the unenlightened state, you'll have a bombardment of thoughts. You might have had lots of thoughts this morning. It might have been like thought. That's one thing that people will experience. Or the other thing you might experience is where there's a thought, and then you follow it, you look at it, you indulge in it, you play with it. And then like 2 or 3 minutes down the road, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath, right? This is what an unenlightened being will experience. An enlightened being will experience a thought, but they notice it right away and they cut it off and let it go, and they bring their mind right back to the breath. Then there's quietness and stillness between each of the thoughts. But then they're going to have another thought, and then they cut it off and bring their mind back, right? So the goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. It's to notice them sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. Because now in your day-to-day life, when that anger and frustration is arising and you notice it, you can cut it off and let it go. Right? But if you're not training your mind that way, you won't be able to do that. So you're building mindfulness or awareness of mind so that now you can be attentive to your mind all throughout your day. And where you see the guilt and the shame and the fear and the stress, anxiety, if you've trained your mind well enough, you'll be able to cut that off and let it go, preserving your peacefulness, preserving your calmness. And if you do this enough throughout the course of your life, you'll get to the point where the anger and the sadness and the stress and anxiety never actually arises, because you've eliminated the causing condition that's producing it, which is this craving, the desire, the attachment, the longing, yearning. That's the gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that took the Buddha 6 years to be able to experience. So it's going to take you some time. But the unique thing here is that this is a permanent solution, that once you train your mind this way, it will never again experience this stress, anxiety, frustration, or any of these other discontent feelings. So the breathing mindfulness meditation is training your mind to let go, let go, let go. And you can see that that helps, because that boyfriend or girlfriend that you broke up with, at some point, even though you were experiencing anger and frustration and boredom and loneliness, at some point your mind let go. And that's where you regained your peace. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace and joy came back. Or you're like, you know what? If she would like to live in another part of the world, so be it. And your mind let go. And that's where your peace and joy came in. But again, your unenlightened mind, it doesn't know how to let go because it hasn't been trained. It hasn't been disciplined with something like breathing mindfulness meditation. But more importantly, the entire Eightfold Path. Then there's generosity. This is also training your mind to let go. What generosity is the giving and sharing of more than is strictly required in any given situation without any expectation of anything in return, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources. This is the way that you can train your mind to let go. Because in the unenlightened state, when there's craving, desire, attachment in the mind, there's going to be a certain amount of selfishness where the mind holds on and it craves permanence. You won't want to share with other people. The mind will think, if I spend 3 hours doing this, I want this in return. And if I do 3 days of this, I want this in return. And of course, you're going to need to have this to a certain degree where you work and you acquire the resources that you need in order to sustain your life. But as you're acquiring resources, you would like to get to the point where you can share with other people without any expectation of anything in return, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources. So you can start doing this in a very simple way, is learn to share with other people. Maybe when you're going into a store and you see there's someone behind you and you're opening the door for yourself, you could just hold the door and let them go in too, right? You could let them go in before you. But you need to be careful, because if you're standing there with an expectation of wanting something in return, meaning you want them to say thank you, and they don't say thank you, you'll be frustrated. You'll cause your mind to be annoyed because you're standing there holding the door, wanting a thank you, expecting a thank you. And when they walk through and they don't even say anything, you'll be frustrated. But your mind's causing that itself, because not everybody who goes through this door is going to say thank you, because that would be permanence. And we live in an impermanent world. So if you're going to practice generosity, you need to do it without even an expectation of thank you. Right? You're not doing it because you want something from the other person. You're practicing generosity to enhance the quality of your mind, training it to let go, to let go, to let go. Because again, the mind's going to tend to hold on very closely. So if you're noticing that you take your clothes out of the washing machine and they're ripped and they're torn, and you get angry and frustrated about that, you can see your mind's craving for your clothes to be permanent. Your mind's holding on. So what I would suggest you do in this case is start sharing your clothes. Give away some of your clothes to other people. It'll train your mind to let go. If you're noticing when your bank account balance is here, you're happy. When it goes here, you're sad or frustrated. You're attached to your money. You're holding on to it tightly, wanting it to be permanent. Maybe you start sharing that with other people. What you'll notice is frequency is more important than the amount, right? So if you shared $500 once a year with an orphanage, that's not going to be as impactful as if you shared $1 a day. That's actually going to train your mind better because you have to let go more frequently. Or say you were going to share $5 per day, right? It would be better for you to share, $1 in each individual place that you're going. So 5 times throughout your day, your mind's needing to let go, let go, let go, let go. So this generosity that the Buddha teaches you, the giving and sharing, is to train your mind to let go. But in the unenlightened state, you'll have a very hard time doing that, because the unenlightened mind functions almost like an animal. We're not animals. We're human beings. And the path to enlightenment is to become a better and better human being. But in the unenlightened state, we function very much like an animal, where we will hoard things. An animal won't share typically, right? Because they're hoarding their food. It's mine, 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 mine. And that's what a human being will do in the unenlightened state with craving, desire, attachment, is it'll hoard things. And what you're looking to do is to become a better and better human being, training your mind to let go. And that's what the generosity will help you to be able to do. So this is craving. I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions before we move on to the next one. Do you guys have any questions here? Any questions online you'd like to ask? Remember, we have the microphones here, and online you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, or in Zoom you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions that you like. So anything you guys would like to ask about this one? No questions? Okay. All right, I don't see any questions here either. Okay, so again, this craving is the longing, yearning, the chasing after the objects of your affection. If the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy, it gets pleasant feelings. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets the painful feelings. And one of the things that can arise is anger. And when this anger is arising, the mind's going to firmly believe it's coming from something external. And that's where it becomes unskillful. And it will push people away, or it'll push the situation away. It thinks this is the way to solve the problem because it's trying to get its cravings fulfilled, and it's not getting what it wants from this person or this situation. So it thinks if I push it away, then I'll get what I want. Or it'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile to someone. Again, trying to fear them into doing things your way. That's the unenlightened mind trying to function like an animal. It's like growling and roaring at another being, trying to convince it to do things my way. Or an individual will put your expectations on someone and try to control them and pressure them to do things your way. And as long as you're doing this, you'll never get to peace and joy, because you can't train 8 billion people in the world to do things your way. It's just not possible. So the Buddha teaches you loving kindness meditation here in order to eliminate the bitterness, the harshness, the hostility in the mind, and then to go out into the world and practice being loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. Loving kindness meditation is different than what we did this morning. Loving kindness meditation, you're essentially rewiring the mind to be loving and kind. It's like filling up your gas tank. But you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to love and kindness and elimination of anger. You're going to need to go out into the world and practice being loving and kind through your intentions, speech, and actions. So the loving kindness meditation is an opportunity to essentially rewire your mind slowly but surely over multiple sessions, where you're training your mind through these phrases that you repeat in your mind. And you start with I, and then you go through different rings like your parents, your family, your coworkers, your neighbors, people like this, ultimately even people that you have anger and hatred towards. And then you get to all beings. And more you will rewire your mind to be loving and kind towards all beings. Because right now, if there's certain people in the world that you like, and there are certain people that you dislike, that dislike is coming from your own mind. There are certain expectations. There are certain cravings that you have. And if people meet your expectations and they do what you want them to do, you will be happy about that and you will like them. But if people don't do what you want them to do or what you expect them to do, you will dislike them, right? That's the mind causing that itself. But we will typically attribute that dislike to the other person. And you can get to the point where you have love and kindness for all beings. Loving kindness is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. What we tend to do in the unenlightened state is we will say, I have fallen in love with you. And then we go a period of time and this person, we experience anger and frustration. And then you attribute that anger and frustration to that person. And now you will say, I don't love you anymore. I have fallen out of love with you. This isn't actually love. This is craving, desire, attachment masquerading as love. At the beginning of the relationship, this person was meeting your expectations because you probably had very minimal expectations at the beginning of the relationship. But as the relationship continued, your expectations grew and grew and grew and grew, and this person wasn't able to meet your expectations fully. So at some point, they stopped doing what you wanted them to do. They couldn't meet your expectations all the time. So you might have said to them, I have fallen out of love with you, or people have done this to you as well. There's no such thing as conditional love, but we might call this conditional love. It's like, if you meet my conditions, if you do what I want you to do, I will say I love you, and I will function like I love you, and I will do things as if I love you. But if you do things opposite of the way I want you to do it, now I don't love you anymore. Right? This isn't actually love. We might call this conditional love, but there's no such thing as conditional love. So what you would like to be able to get to in your life is where you love all beings unconditionally, where they don't have to make any conditions. They don't have to meet any conditions in order for you to love them. And the way that you accomplish this is you need to do loving kindness meditation and practice being loving and kind through your intention, speech, and actions. But you also need the wisdom to understand that you can separate the choices and decisions that someone makes from the person themselves. You can disagree with the choices and decisions that someone makes while loving the person themselves, meaning having a genuine interest in seeing them be well. I've never met anybody that has agreed with every single thing that their parents have ever done in life. Is there anybody here that's agreed with 100% of the things that their parents did in their life? Nobody? Wow, I still haven't found anybody, right? Of course, we don't agree with everything our parents did in life, but you can separate the choices and decisions that they've made from the person themselves, because nobody is ever going to do things 100% your way. There's only one person in the world that's going to do things your way 100% of the time. Do you know who that person is? Who's the person that's going to do things your way 100% of the time? Yourself. Right? So if you can only love someone who does things your way, that means you can only love yourself. And you might even have trouble doing that sometimes, right? So this loving kindness meditation, not only is it going to rewire your mind to have loving kindness for others, but it's going to train your mind to have loving kindness for this being too. Because you might be walking around with negative self-talk in your mind where you're diminishing and degrading yourself. You can uproot that. You can eliminate that. You don't need to walk around degrading and diminishing this person who you are, right? You can separate the choices and decisions that you make from the person itself. And now you can love all beings, understanding that you're going to disagree with things that people do. That's normal. Right? That's normal. That's impermanence. We're never going to agree with 100% of the things our parents do. We're never going to agree with 100% of the things our life partner does, or our children, or our neighbors, or our boss, or our coworkers. Never are we going to agree 100% because we've had different experiences in life. We think about the world differently. So if we can only love people who we agree with, then you can only love one person. And again, you might have trouble doing that sometimes. So there's this loving kindness meditation that'll essentially rewire your mind to be loving and kind in all situations. So that when you're experiencing the anger and the frustration, you understand it's not coming from the other person. It's coming from your own mind. And the last thing you'd be interested in doing is being bitter and harsh and hostile to this person because they're not the ones causing you to be angry or frustrated. So what we tend to do with our lack of wisdom is when we experience that anger and frustration, we think it's coming from the other person. So we go down this well-worn path of anger. We've got like the bushes pushed back. We've got the grass worn out. It's a well-worn path of anger and hostility. And you know where that path leads? It leads to broken relationships. So if you keep going down that path, that's what you're going to keep experiencing is broken relationships because of the anger, hostility, and bitterness. But what the loving kindness meditation is doing for you and practicing loving kindness in day-to-day life is you're forming this new path. You're getting out a machete and you're cutting through the bushes and the stickers. That's why it's challenging when you first get started. It's challenging to go down this new path because your mind's not used to going down this path and you need to forge this new path. But more and more, you're going to get used to going down this path. And this becomes the well-worn path, the love and the kindness. And this anger and hostility path, it overgrows and your mind doesn't even look down that path anymore because all the bushes and stickers and grass is all grown back and it's impossible for your mind to go down that path any longer because you've got this well-worn path of love and kindness that you're going down, right? So there's probably people in your life that you have bitterness and harshness and hostility in that relationship. And you might be blaming the other person and you might be trying to change the other person and trying to fix them. You're never going to get to peace and joy this way. The way that you're going to get to peace and joy is by transforming your own mind. If you transform your mind to be loving and kind, and more, that's what you're putting out in your relationships, more and more your relationships will improve. You're going to see slowly but surely, as you transform your mind and you're more loving and kind in your day-to-day life, that these relationships will improve. When I was growing up, I had a lot of resentment and hostility for my mom. I had so many expectations of her. And of course, she could never meet those. So there was lots of resentment and hostility growing up. When me and mom got together, it was only a matter of time before the fireworks went off, right? That we were angry and frustrated and yelling and hollering at each other. It was like mom would pick up the rubber ball of anger and she would throw it around the room, and I would pick up the rubber ball of anger and I'd throw it around the room. And next thing you know, we got all these rubber balls bouncing around, right? Well, after I started training my mind and realizing the difference, because at the beginning I kept trying to change mom, I kept trying to fix mom, and it never worked. But then when I understood the teachings of the Buddha, I started focusing on my mind, started training my mind. So in the past, when mom would be angry and bitter and harsh and hostile to me, I'd be angry and bitter and harsh right back, right? And nothing ever changed. But then when I started changing my mind, that's when things changed. Because when mom would be bitter and harsh and hostile to me, I would just say things like, Mom, I love you so much. I'm so sorry that I was like this to you in the past, but I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to get off the phone and let you think about what you just said. We'll talk another time, Mom. I love you. Bye-bye. Right? I'd get off the phone. And she'd be like, whoa, that's different, right? Normally he yells and hollers at me, right? So then she would be off the phone and we wouldn't talk for maybe 3 months or 6 months sometimes. And then we'd start talking again. And then it'd be 2 months or 3 months and everything would be fine. And then at some point she'd be bitter and harsh and hostile again. And I'd say, Mom, I love you. I'm so sorry for what I did in the past. I really shouldn't have done those things. Our relationship is really important to me. I would like to see us get to a point where we can be loving and kind with each other. I'm going to get off the phone. I love you, Mom. Bye-bye. Right? I'd get off the phone and she'd be surprised. Like, oh my gosh, like he's not throwing these rubber balls of anger at me anymore. Right? And slowly but surely, mom started to change because she could realize it was her mind that was being angry. Her son wasn't angry anymore. But as long as I was angry and bitter and harsh and trying to force her to change, she'd never change. Right? So you can see this in your relationships too. There's certain relationships you're in right now that you have bitterness and harshness and hostility. You're not committed to the relationship and you're not really interested in really seeing it go on long term. And it's best to just walk away. It's best to let go of those relationships and just move on. You don't need to tell that person what you're doing. You don't need to download all the reasons why you're doing this. Just choose to walk away slowly. Just choose to stop answering their text messages, their phone calls, their emails, and all those kinds of things. Just slowly drift away. There's that category of relationships, and that's how you're going to clean that up. There's a second category of relationships, of people that you're committed to, that you would like to see this relationship improve. Maybe like mom and dad, brothers and sisters, life partners, things like this, children. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to step away and train your mind using the teachings of the Buddha. And then as your mind becomes more peaceful and joyful, now you can participate in this relationship, and now your mind's in a different place. And you'll see that it'll slowly transform. And then there's a third category of relationships. These are brand new people. You haven't even met them yet. You don't even know what their names are. And now in those relationships, you'll only ever be loving and kind. And that's all you'll experience coming back in those relationships. So this is the three categories of relationships and how you clean up your life. You let go of certain relationships and move on. You step away and train your mind. Come back into the relationship, and now you'll do better in those relationships. And then in a third category, you meet new people and you train your mind to only be loving and kind in these relationships. And now you'll get to a point where all your relationships are harmonious. But it's going to take time. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't have bitter and harshness and hostility in your mind or in your relationships. That stuff has all been cleaned up. But it's going to take you multiple years because you didn't get to where you are today in just 1 week or 1 month or 1 year. So it's going to take time to gradually improve that. But the Buddha's teachings are going to help you understand how to do that. Because it's easy to say, go out into the world and be loving and kind. But how do you do that? right? That's where the Eightfold Path comes in. The teachings of the Buddha are going to share with you what's called right intention, right speech, right action, and right livelihood. I taught this yesterday, and I teach this many times. It's been recorded on our YouTube channel, on our podcast. We have it in our books and our audio books. You can get all of this stuff at no cost, and you can learn how to transform your mind. So any questions on this second one, the anger, hatred, ill will, the bitterness, harshness, hostility? You have a question? Matthew. For those of you guys online, you can put your questions into the comment section, or in Zoom, you can raise your hand.
I was wondering, how is the loving kindness meditation? Is it similar to the mindfulness meditation where we can see it, or focus on the breath, like we focus loving all beings unconditionally?
It's very different than breathing mindfulness meditation, but you use breathing mindfulness meditation in order to ease into the loving kindness. So you usually do like a 3-minute, 5-minute session of breathing mindfulness first. Then when you get to the loving kindness part, there's affirmations that you have in your mind where you say things like, may I be peaceful. And you do this on the out breath. And then may I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. You do this very slowly on each individual out breath. And then you move to something like, may mom and dad be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. You're not trying to change mom and dad through your meditation. It's not possible to change others through your meditation. Or you're not trying to invoke some kind of special power to change mom. Instead, you're rewiring your mind to think about peace, safety, wellness, free of discontentedness, so that now when you're around mom and dad, you can function with more love and kindness in this situation. And then what you do is you start with a couple of rings of people you do have loving kindness for to bubble that up in your mind. Then you go to people that you're more neutral about, like maybe like a neighbor or a coworker. You don't actually hate them, but you don't necessarily love them either. So you like to bubble that up to kind of have that loving kindness for them. But then you'd like to have a ring or 2 or 3 of people that you do have anger towards. Maybe that ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend, or maybe some previous boss or something. Your mind's holding on to anger. And the mind thinks this is the way to get back at people, is to hold on to your anger. It's like holding on to a grudge, but you're not getting back at that person. It's just harming your own mind. It's kind of like holding on to a hot coal and trying to burn somebody else. The only person getting burned is yourself. So this rings, you go through these different rings, ultimately getting to people that you do have anger and hatred towards. And then you eventually get to all beings. That's your last ring. All beings be safe, and all the other affirmations. And then you go back to breathing mindfulness meditation after that. So over time, this is going to rewire your mind. So since I had so much resentment and hostility towards my mom, it took me a good 6 months to meditate and train my mind to bubble up the loving kindness. But then I needed to function when I was talking to her, and when I would see her, I needed to function through this loving kindness. And that's what actually transformed the mind. So you're going to need to do a certain amount of the meditation, but then you're going to need to use the Eightfold Path that I taught yesterday to now practice being loving and kind in all your relationships. And over multiple years, you'll clear all those up. But you're going to need to deal with the unwholesome results coming back to you. So I needed to deal with mom's hostility and bitterness because I was hostile and bitter to her. It's not like just because I changed, she's going to change. So even though I had changed my mind, I was still dealing with some of this hostility coming back to me. And that was my unwise decisions in the past that was still coming back to me. This is called old karma, that it's still coming back to you. But you can extinguish that by doing what I did, which is instead of being angry and hostile to mom, I was being loving and kind to her, because anger doesn't get extinguished through more anger. That's not the way you're going to extinguish anger. When anger is coming to you, you arise loving kindness, and that's what's going to extinguish this anger. And now you get to a point where all your relationships are harmonious. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so now the poison or the pollution or the unwholesome root that's keeping these other 2 in place. If it wasn't for this one, the other 2 wouldn't even exist. It's referred to as ignorance, or I tend to use the phrase unknowing of true reality because that's a better way to think of it. The lack of wisdom, the confusion, the misunderstanding, that as long as the mind doesn't understand what it doesn't understand, it will continue to experience the struggles and difficulties. The mind doesn't understand things like the three universal truths, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the five precepts, the Brahma Viharas, the natural law of karma, the seven factors of enlightenment, extensive meditation training. It doesn't have this wisdom. We don't come preloaded with this, and we didn't grow up learning this. We learned how to clean our body growing up. Our parents taught us that, but we didn't learn how to clean our mind, right? There's two aspects to this being. There's a physical body, and we've learned how wise it is to clean that. And if we went an extended period of time without cleaning the body, you'd feel pretty uncomfortable. But if you haven't learned how to clean the mind, you're not addressing this entire being. So you're walking around with this mind that maybe you haven't cleaned for several years, maybe several decades. And now, of course, you feel uncomfortable. Of course, you experience stress and anxiety because the mind isn't cleaned up. But you don't have the wisdom to know how to do that until you actively learn it. Just like we had to actively learn how to clean this body. We didn't know how to do that when we first grew up. That's why we had to learn it. And then when we were first learning it, we didn't want to do it. We were like, no, I want to play. I don't want to take a shower. That's too much work, right? The mind didn't want to do that. We wanted to stay involved in this playtime. But then by the time we got 10, 12, 14 years old, we were like, I kind of like feeling fresh. That feels good, right? And we started doing it on our own without our parents even asking us to do it. Well, now your parents aren't around to tell you to meditate. Your parents aren't around to tell you to go to the temple and read that book. I mean, of course, there may be in your relationship, you might still be in a relationship with them, but they're not going to force you or try to convince you to do this. If you would like to learn this wisdom to be able to train your mind and get to the peace and joy, you're going to need to choose to do that on your own and see the benefit in it. And slowly but surely, as you're training your mind, you'll be able to see the benefit in doing so. And then eventually you'll get to the point where you can't imagine going a day without meditating. Just like now, even though occasionally you don't take a shower, maybe when you're sick or something like that, by and large, you can't imagine going a day without taking a shower. And that's because you've seen the benefit in it. The same thing is true when you cultivate this wisdom of the teachings of the Buddha. Eventually, you'll get to the point where you can't imagine going a day without meditating and training your mind. So it's this wisdom of these teachings that you don't believe these teachings. Instead, you learn them, examine them, investigate them. You reflect on them to independently verify whether they're true or false, and then you practice them, integrating them into your day-to-day life. And now you make decisions through that wisdom. It's not just intellectual, right? This isn't just an intellectual pursuit. If you understood the teachings of the Buddha intellectually, you actually wouldn't get to enlightenment. You need to actually practice the teachings where you're making decisions through these teachings, right? So there could be someone who understands the teachings intellectually, but they're not making decisions based on them. It's kind of like when we grew up, we kind of learned that it's unwise to use drugs and alcohol. People told us that. We intellectually understood it, but we still had a lack of wisdom. We still maybe did it, right? Because we didn't understand what we didn't understand, right? So this wisdom that you cultivate is to cultivate the ability to make decisions through this intellectual information that you've accumulated. And now as you make decisions through that, that's your wisdom, because you see the truth that certain things lead to unwholesome results, and you know it's unwise to continue to do those types of things. So this is transforming the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality into wisdom by not believing the teachings. Okay, so now just to kind of summarize this before we finish up, is there's the three poisons, three unwholesome roots, or three fires. They're called craving, anger, and ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality. Some people refer to them as greed, hatred, and delusion, or desire, ill will, and confusion. This is what's keeping the mind in the unenlightened state, continuing to experience anger, sadness, frustration, and all the difficulties and struggles that one experiences on a day-to-day basis. Then there's the three wholesome roots, or the antidotes to these, because these are the exact opposites. Right? If you're craving, if you're longing, yearning, and you're holding on to things, the exact opposite of that is to practice generosity, where you're giving and sharing, living open-handedly, joyful and letting go, and sharing with other people. If you're angry and you're hostile and bitter and harsh, the opposite of that is loving kindness, where you generate this loving kindness, this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And now you practice that with the people around you. And the cause and effect of the natural law of karma is that the more you're loving and kind, that's what's going to come back to you. And then the opposite of this ignorance or unknowing of true reality is wisdom, that you can see the truth for yourself in each one of these topics that the Buddha is teaching you, that you're not believing anything at all, but you cultivate the wisdom to truly know and truly see the truth. Right? So this is the three wholesome roots. So what you're doing is you're gradually bringing down the craving, anger, and ignorance, and you're gradually increasing the generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. And the more you're making decisions here with the generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, you will see wholesome results or wholesome karma generated because you're making decisions through that. That's what you're doing, is you're purifying the mind of these three unwholesome roots. And more as you see the qualities of your mind and your life improving, you know that you're getting closer and closer to this enlightened mental state. So I'm going to end things here. It's basically about 10:30. We're going to take like maybe a 20-minute break. So let's see. Let's take it up to 11 o'clock. I'll start at 11 o'clock with the 5 precepts. For those of you guys that would like to learn those, I'm going to be teaching those. And then this afternoon at 2 p.m., I'm going to be teaching walking meditation. So we have various classes and courses and retreats here. You guys are welcome to join. On Friday, we have a social event at 6 p.m. If you guys would like to come, we have movie night this week where we're going to be showing a movie. We might have snacks and popcorn and things like that are here. You guys are welcome to come. Other people are welcome to come as well. On Saturdays and Sundays, we have regular classes and courses and retreats. At Sunday at 6:30, we have a meditation in the main hall. And this Friday, we have a tour where I'm going to take students out to some temples outside the city. We're going to be going to a forest temple and a temple up on the mountain. It's going to be a whole day event where it's kind of like a classroom without walls. If you're interested in knowing the artwork, the architecture, and the symbolism of the temples, this is a great time for you to come and learn that. So if you're here at 9 a.m. on Friday morning, we'll be going off on this tour to be able to share with you guys the temple tour. So you're welcome to get involved in any of these events. You'll see them on our calendar over there on the bulletin board, and you'll see it on our website as well. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. Thank you for being here, and perhaps we'll see you in another class. Take care and be well. Sawadee khap, sawadee khap, sawadee khap.